Our top story now, the COVID situation in India has been becoming bad to worse over the last few weeks. That's what the central government said during its briefing. The health ministry said that 8 out of 10 districts with maximum number of active cases are in Maharashtra. The other two cities are Delhi and Bengaluru. The centre has told states that there should be saturation of vaccination for priority age groups in the districts that are reporting a surge in the cases.
Mumbai, Bengaluru and Delhi, which is technically more than one district, are in the government's list of top 10 districts with the most active cases. However, Pune remains the worst hit district with almost 60,000 active cases, while Mumbai has over 46,000. All the non-metro towns in this are in Maharashtra. So today the centre called for saturation of vaccination for priority age groups in districts reporting surge in cases.
कि आप सब जानते हैं कि आपके राज्य में किन जिलों में नए केसेस का सर्ज देखा जा रहा है। उन जिलों में जो एज स्पेसिफिक प्रायोरिटी ग्रुप्स हैं वैक्सीनेशन के लिए, उनका सैचुरेशन कवरेज हो, इस पर आप ध्यान दें।
Last couple of weeks, few weeks, the situation is becoming from bad to worse, and is serious cause for concern.
However, there's still no clear explanation for what explains the second wave and why it's steeper than the first.
कोविड एप्रोप्रिएट बिहेवियर को इन्फोर्स किया जाना चाहिए, और इन्फोर्स किए जाने का अर्थ ये है कि आपके पास जो भी संसाधन हैं आप परसुएड करें, कम्युनिटी के इन्फ्लुएंसर्स का इस्तेमाल करें, कानून का इस्तेमाल करें, फाइन करें, जो भी आपके पास साधन हैं उन सभी साधनों का उपयोग करते हुए ये सुनिश्चित करें कि लोग मास्क पहनें।
The government data downplays the role of COVID strains. Firstly, the total number of samples tested for variants are only up by 277 in the last 1 week. In all, there are now 855 cases of UK, South African and Brazilian strains. In the last 1 week, cases of the UK strain are up 71 and South Africa up just 13. In contrast though, the Punjab government says that the UK strain has been found to be more prevalent there and that 85 cases were detected out of 95 samples most recently. As regards the novel double mutant strain identified in India, the government today played that down as well.
There is no Indian strain as such. Just add one point that mutations are sporadic and single mutations are not found to be dominant in any particular area in India.
The government has said that the COVID situation in the country has gone from bad to worse given the rise in cases and surge in infection. In a letter written from the centre to the states clearly mentioning that any complacency at any level at this stage will have heavy costs. In New Delhi with camera person Xavier Thomas, Shanakshi Chakravarti for NDTV.
Now, Uttar Pradesh has seen a worrying surge in COVID cases during the past week, with the state topping the list of 9 states where cases have doubled in a week's time. A majority of UP cases are in capital Lucknow, but 3 of the other 4 districts in the state's top 5 COVID hotspots are Varanasi, Mathura and Prayagraj, where crowds surge for the holy festivities without following any COVID protocols.
3 districts for religious tourism, and all 3 topping the list where COVID cases have shot up the most over 1 week after Lucknow. In Prayagraj, formerly Allahabad, there are 57 COVID cases, up 78% in a week. But surging, maskless crowds with zero social distancing played Holi for 2 straight days on Monday and Tuesday, despite this appeal.
इस अवसर पर प्रदेशवासियों से मेरी अपील है कि हम इस पर्व और त्योहार को उत्साह और उमंग के साथ तो मनाएं, लेकिन देश की कोरोना महामारी के खिलाफ जो लड़ाई है, इसे ध्यान में रख करके सावधानी और सतर्कता जरूर बरतें।
Government officials pass the buck.
जो जनता है उसका तो कोई दोष नहीं है। एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन लेके डंडा घूमे तभी आप मानेंगे, पब्लिक मानेंगी। इंफॉर्मेशन आप लोगों के द्वारा दिया गया है, साल भर से दिया जा रहा है, तो पब्लिक को न मानना चाहिए। शिक्षा तो इसीलिए दिया जाता है ना कि आप माने.
A bigger worry in UP is Mathura at 61 cases as of Monday, but this is a spike of over 450% in just 1 week. This after 4 massive holy gatherings with no COVID protocols.
मथुरा और वृंदावन धार्मिक नगरी हैं, तो जनता को लगता है काफ़ी दूर दूर से लोग आते हैं, ये लोग मंदिरों में दर्शन करने आते हैं, तो ये मंदिरों में दर्शन करते समय भी भीड़ अवॉइड करनी चाहिए.
In Varanasi, among the world's top spiritual destinations, fresh COVID cases are at 75. They have jumped 120% in a week.
सब त्योहारों में लोग आए हैं, घरों पे आए हैं, पॉपुलेशन की मिक्सिंग हुई है. अभी अब तक तो वेल मैनेज्ड है, बट ये है कि पब्लिक एड्रेस सिस्टम से हम लोग लोगों से अपील कर रहे हैं कि भाई लोग अभी भी सतर्क रहें, बचें, क्योंकि प्रिवेंशन इज बेटर देन क्योर.
While the cases are still in double digits in most areas, what's worrying is the rapid rate of growth, and that, as the Prime Minister pointed out, it could spread from smaller towns to villages. With Ajay Singh, Nitin Gupta and Saurabh Gautam, this is Alok Pandey, NDTV.
And from UP to Karnataka, amid a steep rise in coronavirus cases in Bengaluru, almost all the beds set aside for COVID patients in many hospitals have now been occupied. Maya Sharma reports.
This is what it is really all about. The surges, the spikes, the second wave, the rising numbers. COVID patients in hospital needing help to breathe. Here at the Ramaya Medical College Hospital in Bengaluru, of the 100 beds set aside for COVID patients, 88 are full.
We don't know how it will behave. We hope it will not be as bad as the first. We hope it will be better. We hope there will be an earlier peak and a shorter duration. We have to hope for it. In the first wave, we were a lot underprepared in terms of how the virus would behave, in terms of the PPE, in terms of the infrastructure.
In Manipal Hospital, the ICU for COVID patients has been getting busier.
We are also experiencing, some kind of a slow increase in the number of COVID cases in the ICU in the last 3-4 weeks. The reports from India say that there is an increased, involvement of young people in this resurgence of, the current surge of COVID.
In another part of Bengaluru, in the specialist hospital, 20 rooms have been set aside for COVID patients. All are full. But there is more optimism this time among the medical staff here.
We have seen a steady rise in the number of COVID patients. We noticed this around the first week of March. It just came with a bang, and now the cases are rising. Compared to the first wave, I feel we are in a much better position to handle this crisis, simply because now we have a set standard operating procedure.
The rising numbers in Bengaluru have been described by the state government as alarming. And once again, the COVID warriors in PPE kits are ready for the fight. Maya Sharma in Bengaluru for NDTV.
Let's get to the latest election news now. Today, Home Minister Amit Shah and Congress MP Rahul Gandhi will be campaigning in Assam today in the part of the state which is not going for elections. Rahul Gandhi will be visiting the Kamakhya temple and he will address a public meeting in Pitugur field in Chaigaon, while there will be another public address as well in Bar Khetri. While Home Minister Amit Shah will hold a rally in Ulubari, and then he will also be visiting other areas, Sankardev, Vidya Niketan. He'll also be in Sonapur, where he will address the public, and in Kamrup as well. That's expected around 2:40. So Tuesday was the last day of campaigning for the second phase of polls in Assam, where 39 seats will go to polls tomorrow. That's 1st of April. In 2016 polls, BJP had done extremely well in these seats, but the focus remains in the Barak Valley area. 3 districts with 15 seats is Assam's Bengali heartland. This is the cradle of BJP's Hindutva politics, but this time the Congress and the AIUDF coming together might change the political landscape. Sanjay Chakrabarti and Ratnadeep Chaudhary report.
The BJP won 8 of the 15 seats last time here in Barak Valley. Now the party is fighting hard, retain and do better, facing the Congress-led Mahajot.
This time around, Bharatiya Janata Party will sweep the polls in Barak Valley and come out trumps. people of Congress and AIUDF on the ground have not accepted the alliance.
This is Assam's Bengali heartland, comprising of 3 districts of Kachar, Karimganj and Hailakandi. The number of Hindu and Muslim voters in Barak Valley is roughly the same. According to government data, 50% of Barak Valley's population are Hindus, 48% are Muslims. Voters admit there will be polarization not only on religious lines but also since Congress is holding Ajmal's hand.
বিজেপিতে ভালো কাজ করতেছে আগের কংগ্রেস সরকারতে তো অনেক ভালো কাজ করতেছে বিজেপি कांग्रेस आज बोले तो এটা বিরাট একটা অসুবিধার সৃষ্টি मुस्लिम वोट जो है ना वो इस बार आगे जैसा नहीं मिलेगा
किसको नहीं मिलेगा
लगता है बीजेपी को तो इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ थोड़ा टक्कर होगा
The battle for Barak Valley is very intense because with the alliance of the Congress and the AIUDF there is a situation which might lead to polarization of the votes even on religious line, and the BJP is trying to hold on to its strong base in Barak Valley. This is one region where the BJP has always been very strong, even at the point of time when it was not in the reckoning in the Brahmaputra Valley region of Assam.
See, the alliance is working absolutely like clockwork. BJP tries to polarize, tries to do all sorts of other tactics, but it hasn't worked in Assam.
The BJP is also facing a problem of dissidents in Silchar. Sitting Silchar MLA and former Deputy Speaker of Assam Assembly, Dilip Paul, denied a party ticket, is contesting against the party candidate. He is seen to have influence over urban Hindu voters.
असम में जो भाजपा चल रहा है ये बीजेपी नहीं है, ये डुप्लीकेट बीजेपी। मैं आप पहले बहुत बार बोल चुका हूँ, ये सिंडिकेट लॉबी का बीजेपी पूरा कंट्रोल कर लिया, पार्टी को खत्म कर दिया, पार्टी को पुराना जितना है सबको काट दिया, सबको पूरा साइलेंट कर दिया।
Barak Valley is the only region in Assam that did not see protest against the citizenship law, and that could help the BJP. Clearly, whoever wins this electoral battle in Barak Valley will have a political one-upmanship in this religiously polarized region. With camera person Sanjay Chakravarti in Silchar, Ratnadeep Chaudhary for NDTV.
And staying with the Assam news, AIUDF Chief Badruddin Ajmal, who's part of the Congress-led Mahajot in the Assam election, took a swipe at senior BJP figures like Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah for failing to acknowledge courtesy gifts of perfumes and fragrances that he'd sent them. Listen in.
आप इत्र का बिजनेस करते हैं, आपने कभी अपना इत्र प्रधानमंत्री को, अमित शाह को, इन लोगों को नहीं दिया क्या? क्योंकि
बिल्कुल दिया है, अब वो नहीं लगाए तो क्या पता। मैंने प्रधानमंत्री जी को खुद अपने हाथ से दिया, फोटो है मेरे पास, ये अपना अजमल का थैला दे रहा हूँ, उसमें अंदर परफ्यूम है। होम मिनिस्टर साहब को भी मैंने बाकायदा, जब भी मैं किसी बड़े मिनिस्टर से मिलता हूँ, गडकरी जी से भी मिला हूँ, अरुण जेटली साहब को भी दिया हूँ, फोटो है मेरे पास। एमपी जो बीजेपी के लोग हैं, जैसे हेमा मालिनी है, विनोद खन्ना थे, उसके बाद शत्रुघ्न सिन्हा है, इन सब लोग को मैंने दिया और तारीफ करते और मांगते हैं, साल में 2 मरतबा 3 मरतबा लेते हैं, लेकिन बड़े लोगों का अभी तक नहीं पता चला, शायद वो इस्तेमाल नहीं करते हैं।
Well, news now from Tamil Nadu, and the Election Commission has issued a notice to former Union Minister A. Raja for his distasteful remarks against Tamil Nadu Chief Minister, EPS seeking a response from him. This after they sought a report from the Tamil Nadu Chief Electoral Officer. A. Raja had triggered a huge controversy with his remarks against Chief Minister Palaniswamy and his mother. He later apologized for those comments. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi took on opposition DMK, calling A. Raja an outdated 2G missile. He also called DMK Congress alliance anti-women. The DMK hit back.
A second campaign by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Western Tamil Nadu, where 5 BJP candidates are contesting and the AIADMK would like to regain lost ground. Modi sharply attacked the DMK Congress alliance, calling them anti-women, referring to recent comments by DMK leader A. Raja, who he referred to as an outdated 2G missile.
I want to tell Congress and DMK, please control your party leaders. Today, Congress and DMK have insulted the respected mother of Tamil Nadu's Chief Minister.
The western region accounts for 42 seats. The NDA suffered a rout in 2019 amid shutdown of 20,000 small and micro units in the region, impacted by demonetization and GST. On Monday, Raja had apologized for his remarks that Chief Minister Edappadi Palaniswamy said had denigrated his mother and other women in the state. DMK leader M.K. Stalin, however, said the Prime Minister was distorting what had happened in the Tamil Nadu Assembly on March 25, 1989. He says Prime Minister Modi has lied as always. It was a conspiracy to trigger unrest in the Tamil Nadu Assembly to sack the DMK government. Modi should speak with evidence. Former AIADMK MLA Thirunavukarasar, who sat next to Jayalalitha, had shared the truth in the assembly.
Way behind in 2018, our Prime Minister had mentioned Mrs. Sonia Gandhi as Jersey cow, as Mr. H. Raja, who was at that time the National Secretary of the BJP, has condemned our Mrs. Kanimuri MP as illegitimate child.
There are more women voters than men in Tamil Nadu, and the 2016 election showed that it is the women's vote that steered AIADMK to power for a second term. Post Jayalalitha, who will get that vote could be critical. Raja's comments on the Chief Minister has given a fresh ammunition to the AIADMK against the DMK, which got 38 of the 39 seats in the 2019 Lok Sabha polls. The Prime Minister has chosen to add to that narrative. It seems has also rattled the DMK. In Chennai with Shah Vijay, Sam Daniel, for NDTV.
And staying with news from Tamil Nadu, what's being seen as a major embarrassment for the BJP and a faux pas in a campaign video titled Lotus Will Bloom. The party used a video clipping of Congress leader Karti Chidambaram's doctor dancer wife, Dr. Srinidhi's Bharatnatyam performance, which had taken place a decade ago. Even the anthem that she was dancing to was penned down by former Tamil Nadu Chief Minister and late DMK President Karunanidhi in 2010. The BJP deleted the tweet. The state BJP blames it on a vendor, it says, who took the video from a government website. Dr. Srinidhi has called this ridiculous and said that the lotus will never bloom in Tamil Nadu. But that time for us to slip into a short break. Coming up on the other side, a human rights report in the US that talks about media freedom in India. That's coming up. Welcome back. More evidence has emerged in the investigation into the murder of Mansukh Hiren and the Ambani residence bomb scare case. The evidence, NIA sources say, is a key to unraveling the entire conspiracy. Saurav Gupta reports.
7 cars allegedly linked to the case and used by Sachin Waze, now part of the NIA investigation. The latest car linked to Sachin Waze being probed by the police, a Mitsubishi Outlander, located in Navi Mumbai. Investigators say they are still figuring out the ownership of the car, which brings the tally to 7 high-end cars linked to Sachin Waze, including 2 Mercedes cars, a Toyota Land Cruiser, a Volvo SUV, and now the Outlander.
NIA sources say these cars have been spotted on CCTV footage as well, thereby linking Sachin Waze to these cars and, more importantly, linking him to the evidence recovered from these cars.
Number plates, clothes and a cash counting machine were recovered from one of the Mercedes cars used by Sachin Waze and parked at the police commissioner's office in Mumbai. Also, a laptop, computer and printer pulled out of the Methi River in Kurla. Investigators believe that Sachin Waze had these dumped into the river to destroy evidence. Investigators say Waze allegedly used this laptop and printer to type out the threat letter that was placed in the car that was laden with gelatin sticks. The NIA told the court today that they are inching closer towards finding out the motive behind the Mansukh Hiren murder. Mansukh Hiren's car was used to plant the gelatin sticks and a threat note, some distance away from the Ambani residence in Mumbai on February 25th. Hiren was found dead under suspicious circumstances on March 5th. The NIA told the court that they will be able to unearth the conspiracy soon. The court sent the other two accused, suspended Constable Vinayak Shinde and Naresh Kaur, to NIA custody till the 7th of April.
It's a sub judice matter. It's so PC is granted till 7th of April.
The key to unraveling the conspiracy in a case that can be best described as sensational is uncovering the motive behind Sachin Waze's actions, and with key evidence being recovered, the NIA says it's inching closer to finding out the motive, because till it finds out the motive, it still remains an unresolved mystery. With Sunil Singh in Mumbai and camera person Rajendra Dayalkar, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
And now for a special report on battleground Bengal, we get you voices of the youth in this election.
While there is a full-blown electoral war broken out between the various stakeholders, what do the youth feel? What is the buzz in the campus? Who's responsible for the rise of the BJP, and is the rise of a political entity necessarily a bad thing?
No, due to the rise means the rise of BJP is because the unity in opposition index, that is the left has taken the policy that will transfer all our votes to BJP. So that we could not win, let us ensure that Trinamool should lose. That is the point. They have no agenda, they have no ideology at this point. They have allied with BJP and they have made a combination.
This is very interesting. Who is whose B team? I don't understand, because right now it's very interesting. It's very interesting. You speak to any political party and they're quick to call the other person their B team. Who is B team? Who is C team? या सब लोग मिले हुए हैं.
देखिए,
As Kejriwal says.
देखिए बी टीम या सी टीम के बात नहीं करूंगा, लेकिन ये खूब बहुत ही साफ है कि टीएमसी और बीजेपी का जो मतलब मेल बंधन है जो हुआ है इस वेस्ट बंगाल में, मतलब आप देखिए ना, आप देखिए कुछ ही दिन पहले ममता जी ने नंदीग्राम की बात की. हाँ, वहाँ पर कौन कौन था उस मतलब लेफ्ट के खिलाफ जो षड्यंत्र हुआ, वहाँ पर कौन कौन था वो साफ हो रहा है. ममता जी ने खुद कहा कि अधिकारी परिवार ने पुलिस घुसाई और वहाँ पर राजनाथ सिंह भी मौजूद थे. तब से बीजेपी का अलायंस था. ममता पहले आके ये बोला कि बीजेपी को फ्रंट में ले आऊंगा और लड़ूंगा. आज बीजेपी की जो नेताएं है वो असल में टीएमसी की नेताएं थी, मतलब टीएमसी के एलुमनाई से आज बीजेपी बन रही है. ठीक है, तो
no, but the same can be said about the TMC also, that the TMC was the alumni of the left, of the Congress, then left, then TMC, and now you have a situation where TMC leaders are shifting to the BJP. What do you think? If the BJP wins, if that happens, Shikha Mukherjee says that it is going to be a fluke because they don't have a base, they don't have a cadre in here, though the BJP believes otherwise.
Well, first thing is that elections are never won on souk. They can't be won on souk, especially in Bengal. If the BJP wins this year, it will only be because there is a mass exodus of TMC cadres from the grassroots level to the BJP, who are fighting the elections for the BJP. Yeah. And the second thing is...
You're saying elections in Bengal cannot be a fluke, right? Do you hear that, Ms. Mukherjee?
I'm hearing that, but let me...
I'd like to elaborate, sure. Because if you look at Bengal history, no party has ever come to power in Bengal without a mass movement, without actually, if the BJP comes to power, it will be the first party to come to power in Bengal without embarking on a mass movement.
BJP is not in the picture in Bengal because Bengal ideology does not suit with BJP. They are only in the media.
Narendra Modi in Mukti Juddha is in picture.
Exactly so. They are not in picture. They are actually not accustomed to the culture and ethics of Bengal. They don't know about Bengal and they have no leaders. It is only the communist and Mamata Banerjee who is driving the election. There is no face of BJP in Bengal. That is the point.
No face of BJP?
No face. There is no
What about Narendra Modi?
I tell you, sir. They have to bring an outsider. I will not call, as a citizen of India, he is not an outsider, but they have to bring somebody from Delhi to drive their election. Because they are...
Who is that somebody?
Somebody means somebody, either Amit Shah or Narendra Modi or some ministers. See, now Calcutta has become the capital of India, you know, because all the ministers have come over here. The Prime Minister is doing the daily passenger from Delhi to Calcutta. Okay, so that is the fact.
TMC और BJP दोनों एक और के भाई हैं. दोनों मिलकर ही
पश्चिम बंगाल में जो 34 ईयर के हिस्ट्री है, तो सेकुलरिज्म का ये रहा है पश्चिम बंगाल में, वो नष्ट करना चाहते हैं।
They've altered that. Okay, fine.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Gargi Raut. First up, the COVID situation in the country, which is becoming from bad to worse over the last few weeks. That's what the centre said during its briefing yesterday. The government, however, at the same time denied that it was the mutated strains of the virus that have a role in this surge in cases. States have been told to enforce COVID-appropriate behaviour and to ensure that those above 45 years of age are vaccinated in the next 2 weeks, especially in areas where the surge is being seen. 8 out of 10 districts with maximum number of active cases are in Maharashtra, while the other two cities, Delhi and Bengaluru, are also a cause of worry. And the national positivity rate has crossed 5% for the first time since October. Well, let's go across to NDTV's Arvind for more. And Arvind, so what else is being planned? You know, states have been asked to increase the vaccinations at a high speed, but are they being allowed to kind of put their own rules in place and go out and vaccinate people? Also, the big worry is now Delhi, Bengaluru and Maharashtra, of course, remains the big worry.
Yeah, Gargi, after the country witnessed a surge in COVID cases, now the centre has called it the situation is going from bad to worse, and then they have written to the state governments to ensure appropriate COVID behaviour is being followed, and they have also said that if they find any laxity at any point, at any place, they have asked them to strictly enforce the law. That's something that the central government has sent communication to all the chief secretaries across the country. Coming to the point regarding the point that you raised, that the centre has also advised the state governments to expedite the vaccination process. In fact, the next phase of vaccination will begin from April 1st, where all those above 45 years of age can be vaccinated. So that's where the central government, based on the data that they have complained, as of now 90% of the deaths have come from this particular category of above 45. So that's where the central government has asked the state government to expedite the vaccination process. That's the next phase, wherein all the above 45 years can be vaccinated, and they have asked them to come to the saturation point of this vaccination within 2 weeks' time. So that's an important point that the central government has asked the state government to follow. Coming to the third point regarding, as of now, what we are learning from our sources is that somewhere around 46 districts across the country are showing high load of cases. So those districts have been, those states where all these 46 districts are coming, have been asked to keep a tight watch, and they have also been asked to increase the number of testing. Also earlier we saw the proportion between the RT-PCR and also COVID and also antigen testing. Now these states have been asked to increase the RT-PCR test also. So this is something the central government wants to know, that they want to do maximum testing and then track them, isolate them, and they also side by side they also want to increase the vaccination so that this particular surge of cases can be controlled.
All right, Arvind, thanks so much for joining us with that so worrying situation with this second surge or peaking of coronavirus cases. Let's take a look at this report on what the Health Ministry said yesterday.
Mumbai, Bengaluru and Delhi, which is technically more than one district, are in the government's list of top 10 districts with the most active cases. However, Pune remains the worst hit district with almost 60,000 active cases, while Mumbai has over 46,000. All the non-metro towns in this are in Maharashtra. So today the centre called for saturation of vaccination for priority age groups in districts reporting surge in cases.
कि आप सब जानते हैं कि आपके राज्य में किन जिलों में नए केसेस का सर्ज देखा जा रहा है. उन जिलों में जो एज स्पेसिफिक प्रायोरिटी ग्रुप्स हैं वैक्सीनेशन के लिए, उनका सैचुरेशन कवरेज हो, इस पर आप ध्यान दें.
Last couple of few weeks, the situation is becoming from bad to worse, and it's serious cause for concern.
However, there's still no clear explanation for what explains the second wave and why it's steeper than the first.
कोविड एप्रोप्रिएट बिहेवियर को इन्फोर्स किया जाना चाहिए, और इन्फोर्स किए जाने का अर्थ ये है कि आपके पास जो भी संसाधन हैं आप परसुएड करें, कम्युनिटी के इन्फ्लुएंसर्स का इस्तेमाल करें, कानून का इस्तेमाल करें, फाइन करें, जो भी आपके पास साधन हैं
उन सभी साधनों का उपयोग करते हुए ये सुनिश्चित करें कि लोग मास्क पहनें।
The government data downplays the role of COVID strains. Firstly, the total number of samples tested for variants are only up by 277 in the last 1 week. In all, there are now 855 cases of UK, South African and Brazilian strains. In the last 1 week, cases of the UK strain are up 71 and South Africa up just 13. In contrast though, the Punjab government says that the UK strain has been found to be more prevalent there and that 85 cases were detected out of 95 samples most recently. As regards the novel double mutant strain identified in India, the government today played that down as well.
There is no Indian strain as such. Just add one point that mutations are sporadic and single mutations are not found to be dominant in any particular area in India.
The government has said that the COVID situation in the country has gone from bad to worse given the rise in cases and surge in infection. In a letter written from the centre to the states clearly mentioning that any complacency at any level at this stage will have heavy costs. In New Delhi with camera person Xavier Thomas, Shanakshi Chakravarti for NDTV.
All right, let's focus now on Maharashtra, which accounts for 62% of total active cases, according to the Health Ministry. The centre also playing down the impact of mutation, saying that the double mutation that has been identified in Maharashtra is not behind this COVID surge. Let's go across to Saurabh for more. And Saurabh, there also has to be vaccination that needs to be made a lot faster than it already is. But Mumbai claims that it has asked for door-to-door vaccinations, and that request has not been seen to yet.
Well, there is no clarity on the permission for that, but what we are being given to understand from sources is that the understanding is that there is no policy on door-to-door vaccination, something that was suggested by the Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation, or the MCGM, which is the civic body in Mumbai, which is, of course, has the resources and the wherewithal to carry out door-to-door vaccination. Now, this is something that has happened, but obviously, why and what the reasoning is to not allow this to happen at a time when really everyone feels and everyone understands that vaccinations need to be speeded up is something only that our government can answer. But clearly, this seems to be a hurdle as far as vaccinations are concerned. The state governments, and not just Maharashtra, but several other state governments have been asking for more vaccines and faster vaccination. What also happens is that in door-to-door vaccination, the hesitancy among people to not take a vaccine is also addressed. For example, if someone goes to your home and says that you don't want to take the vaccine, then the authorities then and there can convince that person. Something which, if it's done by the app, is not really happening. So there are several challenges that the vaccination process has, and door-to-door vaccination could perhaps address those challenges and mitigate the risks that are associated with the second wave that has really sprung on us, especially in Mumbai and Maharashtra.
All right. Thanks so much, Saurabh, for joining us with those details. Well, it's not just Maharashtra that's a worry. Uttar Pradesh has also seen a worrying surge in COVID cases over the past week, with the state topping the list of 9 states where cases have doubled in a week's time. Now, majority of UP's cases are in capital Lucknow, but 3 other districts, that is in Varanasi, Mathura and Prayagraj, are also hotspots. And these are where recently we saw those visuals of crowds playing, participating in holy festivities without following any kind of COVID protocols.
3 districts for religious tourism, and all 3 topping the list where COVID cases have shot up the most over 1 week after Lucknow. In Prayagraj, formerly Allahabad, there are 57 COVID cases, up 78% in a week. But surging, maskless crowds with zero social distancing played Holi for 2 straight days on Monday and Tuesday, despite this appeal.
इस अवसर पर प्रदेशवासियों से मेरी अपील है कि हम इस पर्व और त्योहार को उत्साह और उमंग के साथ तो मनाएं, लेकिन देश की कोरोना महामारी के खिलाफ जो लड़ाई है, इसे ध्यान में रख करके सावधानी और सतर्कता जरूर बरतें।
Government officials pass the buck.
जो जनता है उसका तो कोई दोष नहीं है,
एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन लेके डंडा घूमे तभी आप मानेंगे, पब्लिक मानेंगी। इंफॉर्मेशन आप लोगों के द्वारा दिया गया है, साल भर से दिया जा रहा है, तो पब्लिक को न मानना चाहिए। शिक्षा तो इसीलिए दिया जाता है ना कि आप माने।
A bigger worry in UP is Mathura at 61 cases as of Monday, but this is a spike of over 450% in just 1 week. This after 4 massive holy gatherings with no COVID protocols.
मथुरा और वृंदावन धार्मिक नगरी हैं, तो जनता को लगता है काफ़ी दूर दूर से लोग आते हैं, ये लोग मंदिरों में दर्शन करने आते हैं, तो ये मंदिरों में दर्शन करते समय भी भीड़ अवॉइड करनी चाहिए।
In Varanasi, among the world's top spiritual destinations, fresh COVID cases are at 75. They have jumped 120% in a week.
सब त्योहारों में लोग आए हैं, घरों पे आए हैं, पॉपुलेशन की मिक्सिंग हुई है। अभी अब तक तो वेल मैनेज्ड है, बट ये है कि पब्लिक एड्रेस सिस्टम से हम लोग लोगों से अपील कर रहे हैं कि भाई लोग अभी भी सतर्क रहें, बचें, क्योंकि प्रिवेंशन इज बेटर देन क्योर।
While the cases are still in double digits in most areas, what's worrying is the rapid rate of growth, and that, as the Prime Minister pointed out, it could spread from smaller towns to villages. With Ajay Singh, Nitin Gupta and Saurabh Gautam, this is Alok Pandey, NDTV.
Election news now. In poll-bound Assam, where the second phase of polls will be held tomorrow in 39 seats. The focus will be Assam's Bengali heartland of the Barak Valley, a BJP stronghold where the Mahajot has emerged as a challenger. NDP's Ratnadeep Chaudhary spoke to a few people in Silchar, the main city of Barak Valley, over a cup of tea.
Joining us at this moment is Mr. Arijit Aditya. He is a noted editor in a local daily here. Also, Professor Charvak from Assam University. First to you, Mr. Aditya. You know, there has been an intense campaigning for the second phase of polls in Assam. 39 seats going to polls tomorrow. You, as an editor, you have seen the kind of media report which have come out, the current kind of campaign. What would you say about the campaign that this area saw? Because this 39 seats largely the battle for Barak Valley, the Bengali heartland, is very interesting.
Yeah, look, in Barak Valley, it's always a Hindu-Muslim vote. And the tea gardeners play the deciding factor. This time also, this ruling party has a very good impact on the tea gardens. But after the distribution of ticket, there is a lot of dissatisfaction among the tea gardens also, particularly in case of Lakhipur. And secondly, this Hindi-speaking people have expressed their resentment that only single candidate from tea garden community has been fielded by the ruling party. So that will be a major hurdle for the ruling party.
So there you are, you're making a very important point actually. In rural and semi-urban areas, the candidate actually makes a lot of difference. In fact, Professor Chawak, you know, somebody who has studied economics, as somebody who has studied mass communication, you interact with youngsters. Do you think that what are the issues for the younger generation, particularly in a bit of areas which are remote, like Barak Valley, like the hill districts of Assam, which are going to polls, or for that matter of fact, the Lamding, Hojai, these are the areas which has seen development of late. What are the issues for the youngsters? You interact with a lot of people.
You see, particularly in Barak Valley, a large part of the population, they are quite frustrated about certain important issues not getting duly highlighted by anybody. And if you ask which are those, the first is this Barak, the HPC 5 gram paper mill, Hindustan paper mill. In fact, HPC got mentioned in some manifesto minus 5 gram paper mill, but the other paper mill of Nauga. And more than 4 years, 56 months I think, they are not having any salary. That's being a government entrepreneurship. And that is a very large burning thing where people are dying out of hunger, and practically no political party had been really making it an issue. So this is one important frustration, I think, which is an issue, undercurrent is there, but it had not come up to the political battle lines. That is one thing.
The U.S. State Department in its 2020 Human Rights Report has talked about media freedom in India, and it said that the harassment and detention of journalists who are critical of the Indian government in their reporting and on social media has continued. It says harassment and detention of journalists critical of the Indian government in their reporting and reports of extremists perpetrating acts of killing, violence and intimidation against journalists critical of the government has been seen. It also mentions that the government generally respected freedom of expression, and also that the government's request for user data from internet companies has increased dramatically. The report, which is submitted each year in the US Congress, is retrospective and contains a country-wide discussion of the state of human rights. Well, time for us to slip into a short break. Coming up on the other side, NCP Chief Sharad Pawar is doing well after his operation. We'll get you the details. Welcome back. NCP Chief Sharad Pawar is doing well after an operation, as said by the Maharashtra Health Minister Rajesh Tope. He said that Sharad Pawar is doing well. The stone has been removed from the gallbladder successfully. It was done through endoscopy.
ऑनरेबल शरद पवार जी का जो गॉल ब्लैडर स्टोन का जो निकालने का काम था, ऑपरेट करने का काम था, वो एंडोस्कोपी के माध्यम से किया गया है और वो जो स्टोन है वो निकाला गया है। इसीलिए जो पैंक्रियाटाइटिस का जो तकलीफ था वो भी दुरुस्त होगा। लेकिन अभी पवार साहब की तबीयत एकदम ठीक है, जस्ट उन्होंने ऑपरेट किया है और हम अभी ऑपरेशन थिएटर के बाहर ही डॉक्टर आए हैं और वही उसके बारे में और ज्यादा जानकारी देंगे।
Now, the Bombay High Court will today hear a petition filed by the former Mumbai Police Commissioner Parambir Singh seeking a probe by the CBI against Maharashtra Home Minister Anil Deshmukh. Let's go across to Saurabh for more on this story. And Saurabh, Parambir Singh had earlier gone to the Supreme Court and he's claimed that Deshmukh had asked for a bribe of 100 crore from Sachin Waze to be collected from bars and restaurants in Mumbai.
Absolutely, Parambir Singh made very serious allegations against the state's Home Minister. Now, the state government has already decided that it will be probed by a one-member judicial committee. The name has been announced, and this is something that the state government has to do, at least announce a probe, and it is likely to be the stand of the state in the Bombay High Court as well, that they've already announced a probe and that one-member judicial committee is looking into the allegations that have been made by former Mumbai Police Commissioner Parambir Singh against Home Minister Anil Deshmukh. Now, the NCP has ruled out his resignation, and they made it very clear that he won't resign just based on the allegations made by a former top cop who was shifted from his position. And the Supreme Court also observed in its order that the allegation seems to have surfaced after the fallout between these persons. So obviously the Bombay High Court is going to look at the merits of the petition and decide on what should be done. The state government has already announced a one-member judicial committee to probe the allegations, and that's what it's likely to tell the court as well.
All right, Saurabh, thanks so much for joining us. We'll return to you for more updates of the Bombay High Court to take up that petition today. Well, with that, time for us to slip into a short break. On the other side, we'll take a look at the Sensex. Also, a fire breaks out in the Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve in Madhya Pradesh. We'll get you all the details. Welcome back. Well, let's take a look at how markets are doing this morning, and let's take a look at the Sensex now. And there you can see a lot of red on the stock markets today. The Sensex going down 421 points. This is after weak global cues from the US markets and from the Asian markets. It's IT and realty stocks that are really dragging the market down. This is after a very good performance yesterday. So let's bring up the losers, the stocks that are losing the most this morning, and let's take a look at that. Yes Bank down at 3.35%. It's trading at 15.85. ICICI Bank down as well, 1.79%, while Eicher Motors is trading at 2601. It's down 1.42%. Let's take a look at the other top losers. Hero MotoCorp is down 1.3%. Wipro is trading at 414, down 0.85%. And Vedanta 2 is down, trading at 228. Now, this is, as we said, after a weak cues from the US stock markets and Asian markets. BPCL is also trading at 428, down 3.7%. Dr. Reddy's is down 0.30%, and JSW Steel is down 0.28%. And let's take a look at the IT top losers. In HOV Services is down nearly 5% there, trading at 59.70. Oracle Fin SV CS is down 4%, and Mindtree is trading at 2070, down nearly 3%. And this is also after the US, in the US 10-year bond yield has pulled back after hitting a 14-month high. And there you can see the other IT top losers. Emphasis is down 1.74%. So let's now bring up the realty sector, and let's take a look at the stocks that are losing the most there. Phoenix Mills is down 2.7%, trading at 773. Suntech Realty is down 1.27%, trading at 276. And Prestige Estate Projects is down nearly a 1% point. All right, so there you can see it's realty and IT stocks that are really dragging down the market. The Sensex this morning, and now it's down 388 points right now. So there you can see the Sensex in the red, deep in the red. This is off the back of global cues. As we said, the US and the Asian markets have also gone down, and based on that, this morning the Sensex, after a good performance yesterday, has opened over 400 points down. Now you can see it's down 388 points so far. So the Sensex there in the red. Well, let's move on to other news now, and news from... Well, let's get you news now from Madhya Pradesh, where a fierce forest fire is being reported in the Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve. There you can see lots of fires being reported. And is this because of the heat that is being experienced in the state? Well, let's go across to NDTV's Anurag for more on this. Anurag, what do we know about these forest fires? The visuals look terrible, and I believe there's several fires in different parts of the park.
Yes, Gargi, 2 days after a massive forest fire broke out at Bandhavgarh National Park, efforts are still on to put out the blaze. And according to the locals, immediate steps were not taken. This spread across an area of over 100 square kilometers. Bandhavgarh is one of the most popular national parks in India. The fire is believed to have spread to several zones, including one of the 3 major zones, Magdi. And as you can see, frightening visuals showed trees engulfed in blaze and vast expanse of grasslands covered in plumes of smoke. Gargi?
All right, Anurag, absolutely frightening and worrying visuals there. A second forest fire, they're breaking out. In fact, several forest fires in the Bandhavgarh National Park at the Tiger Reserve. And we don't have any clarity as to what caused this fire. And clearly, authorities not being able to bring it under control. Well, let's get you election news now. In battleground West Bengal, let's take a look at what the youth have to say regarding this election. Sanket Upadhyay reports.
While there is a full-blown electoral war broken out between the various stakeholders, what do the youth feel? What is the buzz in the campus? Who's responsible for the rise of the BJP, and is the rise of a political entity necessarily a bad thing?
No, due to the rise, means the rise of BJP is because the unity in opposition index, that is the left has taken the policy that will transfer all our votes to BJP. So that we could not win, let us ensure that Trinamool should lose. That is the point. They have no agenda, they have no ideology at this point. They have allied with BJP and they have made a combination.
This is very interesting. Who is whose B team? I don't understand, because right now it's very interesting. It's very interesting. You speak to any political party and they're quick to call the other person their B team. Who is B team? Who is C team? Yeah, सब लोग मिले हुए हैं.
देखिए,
as Kejriwal says.
देखिए, बी टीम या सी टीम के बात नहीं करूंगा, लेकिन ये खूब बहुत ही साफ है कि टीएमसी और बीजेपी का जो मतलब मेल बंधन है जो हुआ है इस वेस्ट बंगाल में, मतलब आप देखिए ना, आप देखिए कुछ ही दिन पहले ममता जी ने नंदीग्राम की बात की. हाँ, वहाँ पर कौन कौन था उस मतलब लेफ्ट के खिलाफ जो षड्यंत्र हुआ, वहाँ पर कौन कौन था वो साफ हो रहा है. ममता जी ने खुद कहा कि अधिकारी परिवार ने पुलिस घुसाई और वहाँ पर राजनाथ सिंह भी मौजूद थे. तब से बीजेपी का अलायंस था. ममता पहले आके ये बोला कि बीजेपी को फ्रंट में ले आऊंगा और लड़ूंगा. आज बीजेपी की जो नेताएं है वो असल में टीएमसी की नेताएं थी, मतलब टीएमसी के एलुमनाई से आज बीजेपी बन रही है. ठीक है, तो
no, but the same can be said about the TMC also, that the TMC was the alumni of the left, of the Congress, then left, then TMC, and now you have a situation where TMC leaders are shifting to the BJP. What do you think? If the BJP wins, if that happens, Shikha Mukherjee says that it is going to be a fluke because they don't have a base, they don't have a cadre in here, though the BJP believes otherwise.
Well, first thing is that elections are never won on souk. They can't be won on souk, especially in Bengal. If the BJP wins this year, it will only be because there is a mass exodus of TMC cadres from the grassroots level to the BJP, who are fighting the elections for the BJP. Yeah. And the second thing is...
You're saying elections in Bengal cannot be a fluke, right? Do you hear that, Ms. Mukherjee?
I'm hearing that, but let me...
I'd like to elaborate, sure. Because if you look at Bengal history, no party has ever come to power in Bengal without a mass movement, without actually, if the BJP comes to power, it will be the first party to come to power in Bengal without embarking on a mass movement.
BJP is not in the picture in Bengal because Bengal ideology does not suit with BJP. They are only in the media.
Narendra Modi in Muktijuddha is in picture.
Exactly so. They are not in picture. They are actually not accustomed to the culture and ethics of Bengal. They don't know about Bengal and they have no leaders. It is only the communist and Mamata Banerjee who is driving the election. There is no face of BJP in Bengal. That is the point.
No face of BJP?
No face. There is no
What about Narendra Modi?
I tell you, sir. They have to bring an outsider. I will not call, as a citizen of India, he is not an outsider, but they have to bring somebody from Delhi to drive their election. Because they are...
Who is that somebody?
Somebody means somebody, either Amit Shah or Narendra Modi or some ministers. See, now Calcutta has become the capital of India, you know, because all the ministers have come over here. The Prime Minister is doing the daily passenger from Delhi to Calcutta. Okay, so that is the fact.
टीएमसी और बीजेपी दोनों एक और के भाई हैं. दोनों मिलकर ही पश्चिम बंगाल में जो 34 ईयर की हिस्ट्री है, तो सेकुलरिज्म का ये रहा है पश्चिम बंगाल में, वो नष्ट करना चाहते हैं.
They've altered that. Okay, fine.
Welcome back. Now, the latest COVID figures have been released by the Health Ministry, and the number of cases reported in the last 24 hours are 53,480. That's a bit lower than the 56,000 that was reported yesterday. 41,280 have recovered, and 354 deaths have also been reported in that 24-hour period, taking the total number of deaths to 1,62,448. So there you can see the curve of the coronavirus, how it's been climbing over the last couple of days, and many warning of that second wave of coronavirus cases in the country, even as the vaccination drive is continuing, and many experts have said that the vaccine drive needs to go a whole lot faster. Now, in other news, banks are likely to decline auto payments from April, as all recurring transactions using cards and prepaid payment instruments will now require an additional factor of authentication, according to the RBI circular that was first issued in December 2020. Rubina Mongia reports.
Your standing instructions for bill payments, streaming services and more might start failing come April 1st as a new RBI mandate comes into play.
Streaming services are all about the conveniences, and not having an automatic payments adds a layer to the process. Till the issue is resolved, I will still look into linking my UPI.
Banks have now started sending notices to customers requesting them to complete transactions directly and notifying them about the disruption in services ahead of time. The RBI circular first issued in December 2020 states that all recurring transactions using cards and prepaid payment instruments will now require an additional factor of authentication. A notification will be sent to customers in advance before an automatic payment is scheduled, and the transaction will go ahead only once approved by the user. Transactions above 5,000 rupees will require an additional one-time. Major banks like SBI, ICICI, HDFC and Axis, however, claim that they are not ready to implement the new system. The new system requires close coordination between the bank that has issued the card, the bank acquiring the transaction, as well as the payment processor that handles the e-commerce transaction. Banks are expected to decline all such automatic payments, and users will have to make annual transactions to complete bill payment. The ruling, however, does not affect UPI transactions. While the central bank has refused to extend the deadline, the matter is expected to be resolved in the coming weeks. For the moment, however, you should be prepared to make your bill payments manually or risk defaulting on your subscriptions. Rubina Mungia, NDTV.